Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a new kind of deck profile for my channel. We're going to be playing Earth Beast Raccoons. There are a lot of different ways that you can go ahead and call this deck, but essentially it all boils down to the fact that I am a huge fan of the Naturia synchros. You could see them right here pretty much early on in the synchro era once Dual Terminals and Hidden Arsenals came out, and I saw Naturia Beast for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing ever. I want to be able to play this in as many Earth themes as possible. And without me even realizing it at the time, I started kind of morphing my playstyle to accompany more Earth monsters so that I could include Naturia Beast in a lot of different decks. Of course, Obedience School came back in Legacy of the Valiant, so it's been a few years now in the middle of the Xyz era there, but essentially this card has been something that really made me want to play Raccoons, and I've been playing them kind of on and off on the side, not on this channel or anything. But with Rescue Cat finally coming back, it gave me the push to say, let's revisit this deck. Let's see what I can really do with this theme. So this deck, to be completely honest, has very minimal research done into it. I've read articles and stuff in the past, like way back when I started playing this deck, that kind of inspired me to want to play this deck. But other than that, I haven't looked at, anyone else's build or anything to see, what the optimal numbers or anything is. This is all just speculation entirely based on my own testing, and yeah, you're gonna get my own take on the Raccoon deck here. If you want to just see the alphabetical profile, I would normally put an annotation here, but that's for the K folks, so you could go ahead and click the timestamp that I have in the description box or in the comments section. It should be pinned at the top, and you'll be able to take yourself down to the end where I do the alphabetical step-by-step, just simple deck profile you're probably used to, main and extra. And then otherwise, if you have any questions or you just want to see the creation of this deck, which I think is the most fun part of the deck building process, then stay tuned right here as we go through a let's build of this deck. So let's get started. So anytime you're building a deck, you gotta think, what's the draw? What are we exactly building here? And much like how we have Emergency Teleport and Psychics that really have the allure that make us want to play the deck, today we have a power spell card in Obedience Schooled. So for those of you less familiar with this normal spell, it says if you control no monsters, you can special summon 3 level 2 or lower beast type effect monsters with different names from your deck. They have their effects negated and they're destroyed during the end phase. And if you use this card, you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except for beast type monsters. It should be noted that this isn't a hard once per turn type of card, so if you got Torrential or something weird like that, you feasibly could play another copy. I wouldn't really rely on that though. The cool thing about this is that you do have a little bit of modulation in the levels that you want. You can choose 2s, but you could also choose like a level 1 in there, and that lets you go for a lot of cool plays. This is our starting point, our power card. And so you can see we need 3 different beast monsters, with different names. So how are we going to accomplish that? And of course, a lot of people have found these cute little critters from the Shadow Spectre set, which, everyone knows as that one trash set, are actually quite good with Obedience Schooled. So Baby Raccoon Pompoko and Baby Raccoon Tantan are both level 2 Earth beast monsters. Pompoko has kind of a Stratos-like effect. You normal summon Pompoko, and if you do, you get to special summon a level 2 or lower beast straight from your deck, but it goes face down in defense position. And then it says here that you can't special summon any monsters during the turn you activate this effect except beast type monsters, which is important to note because it does kind of limit you in what you're able to do. So just keep that in mind. If you want to use that plus effect, then you got to make sure that you're sticking yourself to beasts. But since you already have that kind of redundant in Obedience Schooled, it is an okay thing. If you look at Tantan, then it's actually a straight flip effect monster that says special summon any level 2 beast type monster from your deck except Tantan. So the obvious play here is you summon your Pompoko, get your Tantan, and then when this gets hopefully flip summon during your turn, if you're able to back this up with some defenses, you'll have 2 monsters, a 3rd monster, and then you'll be able to go and make Xyz summons, go for synchro plays, depending on what you bring out, whatever that may be. So this is going to be the start of our core here, along with Obedience Schooled. We can go and play some other beast monsters that allow us to fulfill the 3rd card for Obedience Schooled. In terms of numbers here, you normally could honestly go with just 3 and 2 because you don't necessarily want to draw the flip effect monster. Monster, and Pompoko will go ahead and search your Tantans. However, in this deck in particular, because of Obedience Schooled, you do want the third Tantan, and the reason is, whereas you don't get the effect of either of these for Obedience Schooled, it's actually kind of worth just plucking that third Tantan out of your deck with the Obedience Schooled so that you have this engine intact and you're able to draw the Pompoko to then fetch the Tantan. You just don't want to run out if at all possible, so that's why you do want to run 3. And then from there, we can go and add a little bit to our basic beasts, and then that'll open up some more plays here. So the first pair of cards that I really like in this deck are our removal pieces. So you could play Kalantosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest. He's a level 2 that says if it's special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can target any card on the field and destroy it, so it can be useful for removal of back row or front row. And generally, you do want to play 2 here because the idea is if you fetch one of these Kalantosas with the Obedience Schooled, you can go ahead and like revive it with some cards that we'll get to in a bit, but you'll still have the other copy in the deck that Tantan can get, and all of a sudden, if your opponent has this huge onslaught, kills your Pompoko, kills your Tantan, you get a Kalantosa, you can at least pop something, so that helps soften your opponent's field even more. So it's quite a defensive deck, even with its 800 attack, 0 attack, 800 defense, and 1400 defense right here. So that's the point of that. And then one wind-up kitten as well. So you may think, well, wait, what is this? Wind-ups? Well, this has a very interesting effect. It's another 800 attack, level 2 Earth Beast. And it says once while it's on the board, you can go and return one of your opponent's monsters to the hand. So Xyz monsters like Dante go packing. You can get rid of large monsters as long as they can be targeted. It doesn't matter if they're immune from destruction. They'll just be spun back to the hand. And the cool thing is, Wind-Up Kitten doesn't have to be summoned by a beast monster, so you can just normal this guy. You can revive him with a variety of other spell effects and still claim that ability. That's why I really like doing that. So typically, I'll go Obedience Schooled for these 3 here. Or you can also play a single copy of Key Mouse as a level 1 tuner monster, and that will let you go make level 5 synchro summons. Of course, you are locked down to beast monsters thanks to Obedience Schooled, but you have a level 5 Naturia Beast that you can go with 1, 2, and 2, so that works quite nicely. And then you've loaded up your Kalantosa and your Wind-Up Kitten in the graveyard for revival with cards like Valeraphon. So this is the last of the major beasts that we're playing in the main here. It's another level 2, but this one's a tuner, so it's quite interesting. And you get to use its ability. You can discard a card to target a level 2 or lower beast in your graveyard, except Valeraphon, and summon it in either face-up attack position or face-down defense position, but you can only use this effect of Valeraphon once per turn. So the cool thing is, even though it costs you a card, you get to go and use Valeraphon, and let's say you have a random Kalantosa in your graveyard. You discard a card, you special your Kalantosa in attack position, Kalantosa pops something, and now you can make a synchro play or an Xyz play with these monsters, which is quite good. And just like we saw with Psychics, when you're able to just have a monster in your graveyard already and you have a Hush Psychic Cleric, you are allowed to discard a hand Kalantosa or whatever else in your hand. Send it to the graveyard as long as you already have a beast in your grave to activate Valeraphon's effect. And then target the card you just discarded, because the targeting happens right after you've discarded for cost. So again, as long as you're allowed to initiate the effect of Valeraphon by having a beast, you're able to get some quick hand fixings with this card. So that makes it safer to play cards like this in your, in your deck, because you'll be able to fetch them out with the Obedience Schooled, but then you'll also be able to recur them with Valeraphon, or even just ditch them and fix your hand with Valeraphon. Reason I played 2 of this is I used to want to run 3, but the biggest issue I ran into it was, unlike the Junk Synchron we'll get to in a bit, it doesn't really work as a cost-effective card. Now granted, it's great because you get to normal this card, and then by sending a card from your hand to the graveyard, you essentially get that card onto the board. So it's almost like Goblinberg or Tin Goldfish. It's an enabler. You get to take the cards you already have in your hand, essentially, in terms of counts, and then put them into play. But, the fact that you're discarding a card means if you top deck Valeraphon, it's not the most useful thing in the world. So that's why I end up just playing 2 of these things. You can play 3 if you would like, but I ended up finding that 2 was the happy medium for me with this deck. Good power play, but not going to clog all my hands. So we can see how Obedience Schooled allows us to recruit a lot of our Raccoon friends, and we're able to go for a first turn Naturia Beast very easily off of just the drawing of a single card. And that's obviously powerful, but is there enough in this strategy to actually warrant it being played? Because the monsters are just so darn weak. And the answer actually is, it's pretty good. I'd say yes. So we're missing attack power, right? But number 64, Ronin Raccoon Sandayu, does a great job remedying that issue. It's only got 1,000 attack and defense, and it's restricted to beast type level 2 monsters for its summon. So you may think, like, how are you supposed to make any use of this? Well, it has an ability that says you can go and detach a material to special summon a Kagamusha token. We'll use this sheep token, or I guess it's a lamb token, to go ahead and represent it because it's a fluffy beast. But don't get fooled by the appearance, because this Kagamusha token copies the attack of the strongest monster on the field on either side of the field. So essentially, you get to make this big monster that can crash with anything or kill anything else. It's kind of like how Gore's would have worked, you know, back when that card was so feared. The thing is, though, while you have another beast monster, including this token, that works, Sandayu becomes invincible. It can't be killed by battle or card effects. So your opponent could kaiju it. They could do something like Castel, but their options are really limited in getting rid of this card, and as long as you have it, you can keep spawning tokens each turn until it runs out of materials. That gets even more powerful when you go ahead and summon a second Sandayu, because let's say you go Obedient Schooled into 2 or 3 beasts, and then you normal summon another beast. So you're able to go and put 2 for Sandayu and 2 more for Sandayu, and now you have these guys are invincible because of each other. And then you can go and spawn 2 tokens at a time of the strongest monster, and that's already quite a lot you can do in terms of control. And you know, that's really why you want to play 3 copies of this card in your extra deck, because the whole idea is we'll get to some recursive cards that let you bring materials back, you know, and you'll be able to use these guys effectively because of that. But let's say you get one like Solemn Strike or something, you still want the ability to bring out 2 of these whenever possible. So that's really why you do want 3, because they do protect each other. And let's get into a quick combo here of how you can actually win the game using Sandayu. So this power play is actually brought to you by Yusei Fudo and his Synchro Shenanigans. Essentially what you do is you summon the Pompoko. Again, we already talked about this. That lets you go and set Tantan straight to your board. Then your next step is to set some sort of defensive card. Just make sure you live and you keep both of these monsters on the board, because if you're able to do that, your reward is so worth it. Next turn, you'll be able to flip summon your Tantan, and that lets you go and special summon a monster. So let's say I go Wind Up Kitten. Wind Up Kitten specifically because it has 800 attack points, which is the strongest I can get here, and it has a nice removal ability, so if my opponent tried to attack me, hey, I can clear the board, get rid of their monster. Now the best part, I normal summon Junk Synchron. If you have a beast set up in your grave already, great, you can use it. But if you don't, we don't even care, because what ends up happening is I synchro with the 2 of these. This is my 0 attack Tantan that I want to get rid of, along with Junk Synchron. And that lets me go and synchro summon the mighty Junk Warrior. Junk Warrior then gains the attack power of the 800 for my level 2 or lower monsters. So that's 1600 extra attack, bringing it up to 3900 attack points. And then if I go ahead and overlay this here, I am able to go ahead and summon a Sandayu in attack position, let's say, because let's say I got rid of my opponent's main monster for attacking purposes. I can now detach this, which lets me go and summon a Kagamusha token. And now that Kagamusha token is going to copy the 3900 attack Junk Warrior that I already had. So 3900 plus 3900 is already 7800. I add 1000 for this. That's 8800 attack points off of the normal summon of a Junk Synchron when I have, you know, one of my materials left. And quite honestly, as long as you preserve the materials for Tantan, you could lose one of them and still get this combo off, because Junk Synchron's going to be able to bring back one of the pieces if you really do need it. But, you know, you want some sort of defense here. But 8800 off of that, my gosh, this is like no setup and you're able to do all this. Just need Pompoko and a Junk Synchron to go by turn 2. Really powerful play. And you know, when you're playing common cards and rares that allow you to go and do an OTK out of nowhere, it makes this deck a lot of fun, and it gives you the power that you need to actually win games. So I already talked about the fact that in order to make this play work fairly well, you're going to need a Sandayu, and in general with the deck's functioning, you want to bring out multiples, not for this combo, but in general, and so you do want to play the 3 Sandayus. Similarly, you're going to play at least the 1 Junk Warrior, but because if this gets Solemn Striked or something, you can still potentially summon another Junk Synchron and get it going again. It is advisable to play the 2nd Junk Warrior. Very rarely will this happen, but it's a backup. It's like, why would you play 3 copies of Metal Foes Mithrilium in a Metal Foes deck? It's because if you get one striked, you do want the other copies as backup so that they're all still live whenever you can have them. To make that work, of course, you're playing not one, but you're playing the full 3 junk synchrons. If you want to play tuning here, that's not a bad option. I just didn't have room in my deck here, but that's always an interesting option to help you get junk synchron more consistently should you choose. I mean, then it pretty much becomes how likely are you to draw the Pompoko to get your plays off. Then some additional enablers. So I consider junk synchron an enabler because once we get out to fleshing the extra deck, we have a lot of plays we can make using level 5 synchro monsters just by having junk synchron as a 1-card summon. And that's what this deck is really lacking. I mean, you have Pompoko can set up a play. Valeraphon needs a discard. Other than that, there aren't the highest number of special summons in the core besides the Obedience School. So we really want to make sure we have things like junk synchron. We have, of course, our Rescue Cat, newly off of the Forbidden list with its errata. This now says you can send it to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beasts from your deck. They have their effects negated and they're destroyed in the end phase, and you can only use 1 Rescue Cat effect per turn. So unfortunately, you can't revive him and use that effect. I've tried a couple times as I was getting used to this deck, but you can't do that for the sake of fairness. But trust me, it really could happen way too easily. So that's why they did that. But essentially, Rescue Cat's good for a lot of reasons because obvious play would be you can go ahead and bring out a Sandaiyu just off of it, or any other rank 2. If you brought out Valeraphon, you could start synchro summoning. And if you bring out Key Mouse when you already have a level 2, you can go for things like Naturia Beast or another synchro as well. So Rescue Cat all around is a very powerful card, and if you wanted to play something like X-Saber or Arabellum, or you wanted to play something like even Mind Mole was an interesting non-tuner I found that you could pair up with Valeraphon, you're able to make a Naturia Beast straight off of the Rescue Cat. I simply chose not to play the level 3 beasts because I thought it is a bit clunky when you're playing mainly level 2s and there's not enough synergy. If Rescue Cat were at more than 1, I would definitely consider increasing the count of this and then playing a tech to level 3 beast. But as it stands right now, I wanted to just play the 1 cat for the boost and the easy summons, and it's been working well for what it does. We're playing the 1 Soul Charge because, this card lets you easily go for multiple beasts at the same time. So you can go for Sandaiyus and, protect yourself, which is quite nice. So very powerful enabler. And then 2 really cool on-theme enablers for beasts. This is Air's Rock Sunrise, of course, based on the real rock. But essentially here, it is a spell card that says target a beast in your graveyard and special summon that target. And if you do, all of your opponent's face-up monsters they currently control lose 200 attack for each of your beast, plant, and wing beast monsters currently in your graveyard for the rest of this turn. And you can only activate 1 Air's Rock per turn. But what I take from this is, if you go and play this late game, sure, you get to reduce your opponent's attack by, a decent amount. If you have like 5 guys, then you go and decrease by like 1,000 attack for everything. That's pretty good. But the big thing here is it's a monster reborn that you can just play on Rescue Cat and get its effect. You can go and use it on, your wind-up kitten and still use its effect before Xyz summoning. This card essentially is really good because it's like the Valeraphon in that it turns a card in your hand, the Air's Rock, into a moving piece. It goes right onto the board. You can make a synchro or Xyz play with it, claim its effects if it's something like kitten or cat, and you could just make big plays with it in a deck that's otherwise restricted to normal summon. So this is how we're basically going to make sure that we get plays going. So now it's time to finish out the main deck here with some tech choices and then the defenses that I mentioned were important in making sure that that 2-card combo ends up working. So first off, we're playing 1 copy of Egotistical Ape. This was something I've toyed around with at 2, but I kind of found it a bit clunky. Essentially, it's a level 5 beast tuner that can only be special summoned by sending a beast from your hand to the graveyard. And when it's special summoned, you can choose to either increase or decrease its level by the level of that monster. So the cool thing here, you do have Rescue Cat, to be completely honest, but most of the time what you're going to have is a level 2 beast. So if I discard a level 2 beast and summon this thing, I can reduce its level by 2. That makes it a level 3, and guess what? If we add back another level 2 on top of the 3, we get level 5. That lets us go for Naturia Beast even more easily. What happens though if you don't even change its level? You could just leave it at a 5, summon a 2, and go for something like a Black Rose Dragon. That was totally unexpected, but it ended up working. But you could go for a Black Rose Dragon like play, so very cool, gets tons of removal, throws your opponent off their game. Only thing is, though, as you can see, you're starting to use a lot of cards because now you use Ape. The card you tune with it and you discard a card, so you're losing 3 cards to make whatever play you make. So very good for its versatility, very poor for its card advantage. Like, you lose just too many resources in doing it. So I like teching the 1 copy. It makes a good impact as a power card when you want it, but you just don't want to draw it way too often. So that's why Egotistical Ape is there. We're also playing 2 copies of Beast King Barbaros because this basically addresses the issue that this deck doesn't have a lot of attack power in its main monsters, and if you get stopped from special summoning or whatever, like, you can't even run over Fossil Dyna effectively. Like, you'd have to like summon your Junk Synchron without effect, attack, and hope you kill it without getting stopped. So, Beast King Barbaros can be normal summoned as a 1900 attack monster, which is quite nice. That can beat over a lot of other normal summons in this game. But essentially, its other ability is you can go ahead and tribute 3 monsters to summon this guy and destroy all your opponent's cards. So if you Obedient Schooled for 3, let's say you went second, you may not want to go Naturia Beast. Just tribute them all for Beast King Barbaros, destroy everything, and that's a great use of this slot here. But on top of that now, especially with Soul Charge and Air's Rock Sunrise, you could just Monster Reborn this guy back as a 3000 attacker, and that's quite powerful. So because of those 3 reasons, and other random things you can do, like he's a level 8, so you can synchro him with Valeraphon for Leo. Just all the traits that this card has happen to synergize with the things that you want to do in this deck, and overall it helps provide just solid, consistent power to the deck that doesn't need any weird tricks or gimmicks. But if you do want the gimmick, you have the Field Nuke right there. 1 Raigeki because, Beast King just isn't reliable enough all the time. No, I'm kidding. The whole point is Raigeki is just good for helping you push through a clear board for tons of damage with your plays. And then now it's time for the defensive options here. So we are playing 1 Max C, 1 Book of Moon. This is not in particular order, it's just monster and spell. But essentially Max C is good because it's a level 2 Earth. You can go and discard it at any time to bring back with Junk Synchron for an immediate play. So, there's that extra benefit there. I always love playing Max C and Junk Synchron decks, so it'll always be here for me. And it's still a good card. Even better so here because it's an Earth. Book of Moon is really cool. There have been times I set this card, my opponent attacks my flip monster, the Tantan, and then I'll flip it back down when they attack. So now I don't lose any life. I get to Special Kalantosa, kill their card, and now, I have a monster still on the board to make a follow-up play. So, that's just one additional thing you can do with Book in this deck, on top of everything else it normally does for its versatile options. So very powerful card in this deck. And then for the traps, it basically came down to I wanted to play full Solemn Brigade because I'd rather lose 15 or 2k life than lose all my cards to Trishula, Black Rose, or whatever, to Castel, because that doesn't trigger my abilities. And also just to make sure that I'm able to keep those monsters surviving into the second turn. So that's why I chose the strongest traps available for that. And on top of that, similarly, then Fiendish Chain is pretty good because, like how Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning destroy the monster so you don't have to deal with it anymore, Fiendish Chain prevents them from attacking, so it stops the effect, but it also stops them from attacking, protects your monsters, really makes sure that they stick, so that's why these are all here. And then the rest of the cards here are basically removal options that help protect you as well. So you have 2 copies of Blazing Mirror Force. Reason is not everything is destroyable, I know, but if you're able to use this on your opponent, you can clear your opponent's board while doing a decent chunk of damage, and then if you follow up with a sizable, even a Junk Warrior play, or just a Sandayu, you could do tons of damage through your opponent's blank board, so that's why that's there. Because it's more reliable in terms of removal, we are playing 2 Storming Mirror Force to bolster this as well, because then you have 4 different ways to mass remove your opponent's cards on top of your Beast King, your Raigeki, and whatever, and then this allows you to basically attack through an opponent's clear board, so that's why we do that. And then this card isn't removal here, but we're playing the single Spiritual Swords of Swords of Revealing Light, and essentially what this continuous trap does is once per attack, you can just negate your opponent's attack by paying 1,000 life, so that's good because you can protect all your Raccoons from all of your opponent's attacks. And if your opponent happens to remove this card first, if you at least, you can't save your Raccoons, but you can banish it to prevent a direct attack that turn, so at least you can guarantee you will live, and then hopefully you'll be able to follow up, regain some ground with an Obedience Schooled when you have a blank field, or you can go ahead and Junk Synchron, or do something like that, Soul Charge, whatever. You have a lot of enablers in this deck, and Holy Swords, the Spiritual Swords rather, excuse me, that's a TCG name now, is actually able to bring out your best plays by keeping them alive and keeping you in the game. And then last but certainly not least is the extra deck here. We want to make sure we flesh this out with all of the options that we have not talked about yet. So first off, we are playing the one Armory Arm. You are playing Valeraphon, which is a level 2 tuner. And at first I wasn't playing Arm, but I realized if you're able to go and, boost the attack power of like your Kagamusha token by 1,000 and then burn through with it, like it does so much damage because you're already the strongest monster. You became stronger because of this, and then you're burning your opponent. It does so much in terms of just ending the game for you. And there are a couple of monsters in here that we actually play that will gain even more benefit. We're playing things like the Daigusto Phoenix that can attack twice. So now if you imagine a 25 attacker attacking twice, burning through monsters, that's quite sizable. And similarly, we can do something like that with High Speed Roy Chanbara, who can attack twice per battle phase, and every time he ends up battling either direction, he gains 200 permanent attack points. So, we start with 2,000 here. First time he attacks, let's say he's attacking directly, 2,200 attack. Attack again, that's another 24, so that's 4,600. You throw on another 1,000 for each attack here, that's just so much. And that allows you to do that full damage even through attack position monsters. So great card here. Essentially all that needs is, you go and make the Tantan play. Let's say you have the two monsters. You junk synchron for a level 2, so you can synchro for this Chanbara and overlay for, or I guess if you have Valeraphon rather, overlay for the Armory Arm, and you're able to just do all this. So very, very powerful here. And then related to that, I do like Armades in this deck. This is just a tech to level 5. Prevents your opponent from responding whenever you battle. They can't play any spells, traps, or monster effects. So not only does it shut down annoying things like Burning Abyss and other floaters, but you're just able to prevent your opponent from fighting back with mirror forces and stuff. So if you're able to strap it to an Armory Arm, it gets even more powerful. You're able to go and do massive damage, and your opponent can't do anything about it. So quite the nice choice off of just a normal summon junk synchron. And then some other fun stuff. We have a Black Rose Dragon I mentioned. You can go off of Egotistical Ape, but you can also go off of a very fun card that I like to play. Excel Synchron is a level 5 synchro tuner. You can go off of it with junk synchron, which is great because now you have this level 5. He can tune with any of your level 2s to bring out Black Rose Dragon, and he can even do that during your opponent's turn, which makes Black Rose even better. And then your other ability for Excel Synchron is you can go ahead and send an extra copy of Junk Synchron to your graveyard straight from your deck, make this a level 8 monster, and then if you tune it to a level 2, you get a Leo at level 10 on the board, who is of course immune to anything that targets him from your opponent if it's not your main phase 2. So very powerful option. So Excel Synchron lets you access this. You can get this with Egotistical Ape. You could do this with, quite a lot of options. You have, what is it called? The Beast King Barbaros lets you go for Leo as well. So, lots of fun ways you can bring this card out. Definitely worth the slot, I think. And, the cool thing about playing Beast monsters is you're rewarded because if it ends up going down, you just Monster Reborn it with Heirs, and then your opponent has to deal with this monster again. So very cool card. And then last two cards are at rank 2s. We have Sky Cavalry, Centaria. This is pretty staple here. I'm only playing one copy because most of the time I only ever want one. It's essentially the Castel of the deck, if you will. It's a 2,000 attack monster, needs 2 level 2s, and it says it can't be destroyed by battle ever if it has an Xyz material. And then at the end of the damage step, you can return your opponent's monster that this battled back to the hand by detaching a material from this card. So very powerful card for getting rid of annoying monsters that just can't be killed otherwise. And it's a safer pick that you can throw on the board. Your opponent probably needs to use a monster effect or, like Dark Hole or like, something like that to get rid of this card. So very useful overall. And the last card here is a brand new card from Dragons of Legend 3. It's number 40, I think this is 5, Crumble Logos, the Prophet of Demolition. But it's a zombie Xyz, level, or rank 2, 2,200 attack, and it needs 2 or more level 2 monsters, but to be completely honest, I've never used more than 2 monsters to summon it so far. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to target any other face-up card on the field, and while this monster remains face-up on the field, that target has its effects negated. Oh, so you can go and choose like your opponent's Dragonic Diagram or your opponent's like Beel's of the Diabolic Dragons, like anything with some annoying effect that lets your opponent gain cards or like floodgates you or is really hard to remove. You just block it with this card and you can go and kill it, which is quite good. 2,200 attack is a lot higher than a lot of your other options at rank 2, so it's even stronger than Centaria in that regard, so that's quite nice. And then its other ability is while that target that you chose remains on the field, your opponent isn't even allowed to play another card with the same name as that target or activate effects. So it's really weird, but let's say you go and play this on your opponent's Dragonic Diagram or other field card. They can't replace it with another field card because they're not allowed to try and introduce that card as long as the original remains on the board. So very cool card right here. It lets you get out of a bunch of really weird floodgate type of, brick wall situations, and it's just a really powerful 2200 way to consolidate your rank 2. So I think it's a really cool card. Again, so far it's very new. I've only been testing it out, in this for fun build, but thus far it has yet to disappoint me. It's quite the nice pick, and I think it does a really good job rounding out this deck. I'd rather play this for variety than run the second Centaria, is what I thought. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the creation of this deck just as much as I did putting it together and putting it to the test. And without further ado, let's get started with the alphabetical profile, starting with our main deck. So we're starting off with 3 copies each of Baby Raccoon Pompoko and Tan, which is pretty standard. We have 2 Beast King Barbaros, 1 Egotistical Ape, 3 Junk Synchron, 2 Calentosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest, 1 Key Mouse, we have 1 Maxi, 1 Rescue Cat, 2 Valeraphon, Mystical Beast of the Forest, a Wind-Up Kitten, 2 Ayers Rock Sunrise, a Book of Moon, 3 Obedient Schooled, a Raigeki, and a Soul Charge for our spells, and finally for traps we have double Blazing Mirror Force, triple Fiendish Chain, the full Solemn Brigade here, consisting of 3 strikes and a warning, the Spiritual Swords of Revealing Light, and double Storming Mirror Force for a 40-card main deck of 12 traps, 8 spells, and then 20 monsters. And finally, for our extra deck, we have Armory Arm at level 4. For our level 5 suite, we have Excel Synchron, Armades, Keeper of Boundaries, High Speed Roy Chanbara, double Junk Warrior, and Naturia Beast. For level 7, we have Black Rose Dragon. 10, we have Leo. And then for Xyz, we only have rank 2s here. We have Daigusto Phoenix. Number 45, Crumble Logos, the Prophet of Demolition. Triple number 64, Ronin Raccoon Sandayu. And a single Sky Cavalry Centaria. That's the end of the video. If you enjoyed, please like it so we can share it with as many other people who may enjoy it as well. If you want to see more of this series, you can click the annotation you see on the right, or if you just want to see the last video I did, click the annotation on the left. And if you really liked what you saw today, then I invite you to check out the channel icon in the middle to subscribe to JD Gaming for more weekly videos. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.